Welcome into episode 583 of the Skate Podcast. I am Brian DeFelice, joined by Scott McLaughlin, and back from her day-to-day, Bridget Peru. We missed you. We're glad you're back. Welcome back for a fresh week of hockey coverage. It's going to be a busy week.
Yeah, I think I texted you guys over the weekend, like, we're going to have a lot to talk about on Monday because so many things happened and this offseason's already crazy. So I was like, all right, at the time too, the Tkachuk stuff hadn't even happened yet. So I was talking about Bergeron and some other rumors and yeah, wow, we have a lot more to go off of now. And yes, luckily no long-term injury here, just weird summer illness that I think was going around somehow. But yeah, happy to be back. Chris Peters did a good job filling in. Scott, I'm sorry you have to deal with me again. So, and I will put the popcorn up. So
Right off the bat.
Yeah, that's what he was like. Oh, well, there's going to be less popcorn. Well, now I need to make sure when I come back that we get right back to it.
Ate a lot of popcorn over the weekend too, in addition to following all the trade news, watching the World Cup. But yeah, so went to two movies. Toy Story 5, really
Same, good. Very good.
Just as every movie in the Toy Story franchise is. And then completely different, like the exact opposite of that. Also saw a movie called The Furious, which is a like Japanese martial arts movie. Excellent.
Really?
Incredible. Just amazing action sequences.
Wow. A lot of action happening this weekend in the world of hockey. I want to get to Scott's opening shift first, but before we do, the majority of this episode, we will be doing a collaborative, mock off season for the Bruins. It's going to be pretty raw. We haven't really discussed amongst each other, so it's going to be, live, and you'll see how we do. Obviously, we'll be reacting to some of the stuff that's happened already. So, for example, no Brady Tkachuk to Boston. Scott, you want to take it over?
Yeah, that was not part of my plan. Anyways, didn't think that was going to happen for the Bruins. But yeah, couple just monster moves over the weekend. And in the Bruins division, obviously the Florida Panthers acquiring Brady Tkachuk from Ottawa for 3 first-round picks and a second-round pick. 2 of the first-round picks in this year's draft, including 9 overall. The Panthers have picked up a second first-round pick in this year's draft by trading Mackie Samoskevich just a couple hours earlier. He goes to Seattle. But yeah, a massive shakeup that, obviously had been speculated. There had been lots of stuff around Ottawa and Brady Tkachuk's situation there. Everyone always shot it down, including Brady Tkachuk himself, would always shoot down these trade rumors. But, in classic where there's smoke, there's fire. Like, turns out, basically, like, listen to Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts. It seems like the way that this played out was Ottawa's front office, GM Steve Staios, goes to Brady Tkachuk, knowing that his deal is up in 2 years, and says, can you give us like an honest thought on whether you'll resign here in 2 years? Like, where is your head at? And it seems like he probably told them either I'm definitely not resigning or probably not resigning. And so they decided to pull the trigger now. Brady Tkachuk gave them a list of 4 teams. Florida, Carolina, Minnesota, Vegas is what was reported. But obviously, as everyone would assume, Florida was his clear preference. To be united with brother Matthews. So they are now together on a team that already looked pretty loaded up and ready to bounce back after a down year, and now looks even more loaded. The other big move that certainly got overshadowed by the Brady Tkachuk trade, but Darren Radish goes, this a couple days earlier, but Darren Radish goes from Tampa to Toronto in a sign-and trade, 8-year deal, $8.5 million a year. So he will not be hitting the open market. There goes arguably the top free agent on the board altogether. In my mind, the top defenseman for sure. A player that the Bruins could have potentially targeted. So we'll get into, what do they look to do on defense now? But Radish, now a Toronto Maple Leaf.
Yeah, that came around, early. Was it earlier in the weekend? Was that like Friday or Saturday?
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah, and that would have probably been when we do this exercise where I went with like a majority of the money, but obviously now that's not a possibility. And yeah, with the Kachuk stuff, the thing there's so much there. Like it brings up a lot of different topics, and I've seen people talking about it online. But is this what the NHL is going to be now? Like, are the stars of teams going to be like, yeah, no, I really don't want to be here, because we've seen it with Larkin, we've seen it with Kachuk. It's like captains not wanting to be where they are and forcing their like I don't know how much he forced his way out, but like he kind of forced their hand at the very least, to know they need to try to get something for him before he becomes free agent. But that Florida team, if you didn't take advantage of it this year, you were in trouble, because that team is going to be really good for the next, feels like several years, feels like for a while. And also they're already maybe the most annoying team to play against, but now it just feels worse. Like they just need like Zach Benson, and then to be the worst case scenario for anything. That's just that the identity of that team is so obvious, and it's like just the rats, but they're good. But you hate them, but they're very good and they're talented, and they're it's weird to think Marchand is going to be a team with both Kachucks. And yeah, it's just that pick that the Bruins have coming from them is going to be the very end of that round. So it does affect the Bruins in some significant ways, so we'll get to it, and if not today, definitely over the course of the rest of the offseason, when we talk about the way that the division's shaping up and so on.
Yes, I'll definitely follow up on this conversation as we go, but I just wanted to quickly mention the Bruins did release their preseason game schedule about 15-20 minutes ago, so that's up there. I think there's 4 games on the slate. I think I saw Philly a couple times, Washington. Anyway, so just wanted to put that out there in case anybody wanted to catch a preseason game for probably, I imagine those tickets are more affordable than regular season games, right?
Yeah, shorter preseason. First year of the shortened preseason, obviously with two regular season games getting added. It's now an 84-game schedule. So preseason went from 6 down to just 4. So as we mentioned a couple times, but we'll certainly mention as we get closer to the season, like it's more of a sprint this year from the time you get to training camp. Now you only have 4 preseason games to divvy up playing time and decide how you want to use that. How much does each goalie play? Like before, it's like, all right, if you had 3 goalies you want to look at, each of them gets 2 games more or less. Well, now you only have 4 games to work with. So, especially in the case of like if there's a goalie competition between Jonas Korpisalo and Michael DiPietro for the backup job, if Korpisalo's still here, well, you only get 4 games now to work through that, plus whatever you can glean from practice.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, Bridget, before you get to your opening shift, we're gonna circle back on the conversation. One thing you said that stuck out to me, you said, is this going to be the league going forward with players kind of asking their way out? And I think very clearly the league is changing, and players are trying to take control when they can. I feel like right now and going forward in the next 3, 4, 5 years, the league's gonna be very vulnerable to that, because the salary cap is continuing to rise. So if a player wants out, a lot of teams can fit them in. Once the salary cap kind of flattens out for a little bit, which I imagine we'll get to that point at some point, right? Maybe
I don't know.
You don't know?
We might not.
Yeah.
I mean, with new TV money coming in a couple of years, like the NHL is better financially than they've ever been. So like,
yeah,
there's not really anything on the horizon that would tell me like, oh, the salary cap's going to flatten out.
Well, then maybe this scenario, there's no end in sight for it, right? Because like if players want out, but teams have, they're up against the cap, there's only so much you can really do, right? But if the cap keeps going up, then yeah, maybe this could be the way of the world going forward. Who knows? But Bridget, you had an opening shift to get to as well.
Yeah, I do. And I wanted to mention too, so mine's more Bruins centric. A lot of what we're going to be talking today is like looking around the league and trying to see what the Bruins might do. But this is actually pertinent to players they already had on their roster becoming who are about to become free agents that the Bruins might want to bring back. And Pierre LeBrun reported this weekend that I believe he even specified that he had talked to Arvidsson's agent and said that from what he understands, Don Sweeney is very interested in bringing him back. So maybe that's actually closer than I had originally thought, I guess, just kind of reading into the comments post-season in that breakup press conference that Sweeney gave and Sturm's comments as well. And when it comes down to it, Viktor Arvidsson, he was a good fit here last year. Obviously a Sturm guy. Seems like Sweeney likes him too. Team likes him. He had a better season than he had previously, kind of bounced back. And I think he likes Boston too. So I think there's a lot of reasons for him and for the team to want to, stick with that and bring him back. So maybe we're close to seeing that. And that does, I know it's not a new player, but at least that does solve your one issue that you have, which was, what would you have done on your second line? Like, you would have needed to infuse your second line with another forward of a certain caliber. And I know, Scott, you said this before we started recording, like, of the options in that price range and in that like second line fit, Arvidsson maybe was the best option anyway. So if he does end up coming back, I think everybody should see that as a good thing. Now, if the price wasn't reported, like the term, how long it's going to be, how much it's going to be, that the details we haven't gotten. So we'll see on that. But I think all in all, I think it would be a positive thing to see him come back and maybe take somewhat of a discount, but who knows? Originally, I thought maybe he was going to try to go for his last big contract, with the term and with the AAV that would kind of keep him through, because he's in his 30s. So, the last big one maybe out there for him, but will it be with Boston? It seems like there's at least interest on the Bruins side to try to get that done.
Yeah, and Arvidsson makes sense because he is one of the, like I said to you guys before we started recording, top 5 or so UFA wingers available. And he obviously was in Boston. Bridget, to your point, there's familiarity there. It works. So that one makes sense if the deal is right. The Andrew Peak conversation makes a little bit less sense as long as Henry Jokiharju is around town. I've been saying this for a while with you guys, that if it's clear Marco Sturm likes Peak more than Jokiharju, but one guy's a UFA to be and one guy's under contract, and it's not the one that Sturm prefers. So if there's a world where Jokiharju is traded this summer and they want to bring back Peak, I'm not saying I even love that, but at least conceptually in terms of slotting, that makes sense because he could be your third right shot defense. If he's still around with Jokiharju, I just don't know what the Bruins are doing. And I bring that up because he was also mentioned in some online chatter about the Bruins are still in talks with him, and that one caught me off guard. Arvidsson didn't catch me off guard. I thought Peak was as good as gone. So again, maybe who knows what those conversations are actually like, but interesting to see that they're conversing with him. My opening shift is going to piggyback a little bit off of Scott's, and I look at what's going on around the league, and you have Darren Radish going to Toronto. You have Brady Tkachuk going to Florida, so the rich get richer there. Ottawa they're going to try to do something if they can, obviously, because they're not interested in taking a step back, I don't think. We know about the Dylan Larkin trade request. I think Dylan Larkin is not bound for Boston. Clearly, I don't think Florida, unless Bill Zito just really is this generation's version of Harry Houdini, but I don't see Larkin going to Florida because they don't have a first round pick in the next 4 drafts anymore, and the cap space is an issue. So I feel like Minnesota is where Larkin would end up. And another team rumored to be interested in, or another player rumored with Minnesota would be Vinny Trocheck. And it's like, well, if Larkin goes to Minnesota, again, a lot of assumptions here, then it's like, okay, so where does Vincent Trocheck end up? And my point here is, I don't want the Bruins to look around this offseason and in an effort to keep up with the Joneses, they go out there and their solution is to sign Jacob Trouba and trade for Vinny Trocheck. Or as Scott put it before the episode, sign Rasmus Anderson and trade for Vinny Trocheck, because they are not anywhere close to the Florida Panthers. And I'm sorry if you guys hear any banging behind me. I don't know if someone's doing some nail gunning. I don't know what they're doing. But they don't agree with my take. But I don't think the Bruins should look around at some of the top teams right now and try to keep up with them by bringing in some second-tier options when they're not good enough as it is. And in Trocheck's case, you're trading for him. So what are you giving up for him? If the Bruins want to make an impact, I think you have to go out there. We'll talk about it later. There's a player in Jason Robertson I think they could go after. Not saying that they get him, but you can make a bid for him. And then beyond him, are there any trade candidates around the league that we just don't really know about? You hear a Zach Werenski name out there or this or that. If you want to go for a swing like one of those types of players, fine. But do not take swings in overpayments for secondary options when you are so far behind the teams you're trying to chase. And at that point, you just rather stay patient. So that's my takeaway. I can't help but feel like the Bruins are looking at these moves and saying, oh, well, we're going to do something now, Cam, right? It's like, okay, maybe if it's the right move, but don't go crazy for, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, the Vinny Trocheck thing is fascinating because like he keeps popping up like as a potential Bruins target, and I've said before, like I like Vinny Trocheck as a player, and I think he has a really reasonable contract for the next 2 years. But like, what is it going to cost in assets to get him? Like that's the part that doesn't make much sense. Now, if you tell me, hey, the Bruins can trade away Pavel Zacha and get multiple premium assets, and then they can get Vinny Trocheck for something less than that. And so you've swapped Zacha for Trocheck and you still gained assets in the process. Like I can maybe get behind that, because if you move Zacha, like your center issue becomes even more glaring to the point where it's like, who are you putting on a line with David Pastrnak this year? Like I could understand Trocheck as like the stopgap for the next couple of years. He has an extra year of control versus where Zacha is right now. But beyond that, I don't. Like if you're holding on to Zacha and then still going on again Trocheck, like that's just not where I'd be spending my assets. So, yeah, I find that fascinating. I'm with you. Like I don't think there's a legit 1C that realistically they could get. Like, that they weren't on Dylan Larkin's list unless that. Now, look, that trade hasn't happened yet, so that tells you that obviously there's been some sort of hang up there. Like, there's a reason Detroit hasn't made that move yet. Maybe they were waiting for the final 10. Maybe they were waiting. Maybe they knew something was happening with Brady Tkachuk and they were waiting for that, or Florida was waiting for that to some of these teams might have been in on both, right? Like those lists that the players gave their teams look very similar. Florida, Minnesota, Vegas popped up on both. So maybe like all of those teams were waiting. They were like, hey, Brady Tkachuk's the guy we really want. We're going to see how that sorts out before we go make our best offer for Dylan Larkin. So maybe one of those other teams, Minnesota, I think you're right, is probably the most likely. Doesn't seem like the Bruins are getting him. I'm with you. Robert Thomas, all we've heard this offseason is he's not getting traded. Jordan Kyrou might, but Jordan Kyrou's a winger, not a center. Right. Beyond that, it's like, okay, Elias Pettersson, if you want to take that risk, as I've said before, I'm very scared of that contract and that commitment. You would be buying a depreciated asset, so maybe you're not giving up like a truly monster package, although I'm sure Vancouver's still going to hold out for quite a bit. Like they're not just going to give Elias Pettersson away, I don't think.
I do think there'd be salary retention there. That's what I'm kind of hearing too.
Yeah, that would make sense. And then you look at like, okay, are there younger options who just maybe could just use more opportunity, a change of scenery? Mason McTavish, right? Like he fits that, where it's like, do I think Mason McTavish is a 1C or ever will be? Probably not. If I had to bet on it, like I think his upside is good 2C. But depending on the cost, like maybe that's a move worth making. And at least then you're taking a shot on someone younger with some upside versus a Vinny Trocheck, who's like, yeah, you already know what he is. Like, can you plug him in as a 1C? Sure, you can do that. But he's a 2C on a really good team. and he's in his 30s. Like, there's just not a lot of upside there.
You could also plug in, Mark Kaslick as 1C if you really wanted to. Like, you can put anybody you want in that position. Doesn't even have to be that guy, right? Like, Vinny Trocheck is he's not even close to a 1C. Not even close.
No, but like he's been like a 60-point guy, right? So
yeah, how many times? It's like, I don't know. Like, to me, for the record, I know you're not saying he's a 1C, Scott, so I'm not coming at you here. But it's like, just like Don Sweeney trying to justify, Vinny can come in and be our 1C. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, you can technically put anybody on that line. It doesn't make them a 1C. It makes them, somebody that you're putting in that position. I mean, it's just, how many years now have the Bruins been without a true number one center? We're going into do not look now. But Bridget, to your point, we are now going on season 4. Season 4 of the Boston Bruins not having a true number one center. Centennial season, 24-25, 25-26, and right now it's a mystery. So how long are we gonna, maybe they have no choice.
Until James Higgins gets bigger and
and that's kind of, and I think that's probably the most realistic thing. And that's kind of my point, is like, that guy's not out there. If you want to go out there and try to take a risk on Elias Pettersson, which I honestly believe is like, that's probably the most realistic external option that you could probably get your hands on, because I don't think Larkin's coming to Boston. Robert Thomas, I don't think is being traded. Nico Hischier, rumor is has picked up momentum on an extension in New Jersey. And even with Hischier, is he a 1C or is Jack Hughes the 1C there, right? So it's like Austin Matthews. We'll see what happens over time. But right now, I think he's staying in Toronto. McDavid and Draisaitl, sorry to break anybody's hearts, not one of them is coming to Boston this summer. And if they do, color me shocked, but I don't see that happening. So it's like, who are we talking about externally for centers? To me, it's Elias Pettersson, in terms of like actual talent to maybe be a 1C. I don't think that's Vinny Trocheck. It's Elias Pettersson, or you're not getting it, and that's why maybe you should try to bolster the wing, right? But like you already have two guys in Elias Lindholm and Pavel Zacha that you're paying to be, those guys. Why bring in a third? Like, you already have, like, so, and again, maybe you're talking about Zacha's gone and you bring him in, but yeah, I don't know. It's tough to judge without seeing how it all unfolds. But just generally speaking, I'm not a fan of Vinny Trocheck coming to Boston with the roster currently, how it's currently constructed.
Yeah, just for the record, Trocheck has been a 60-point guy 3 times. 2 of those he topped 70. He had 59 points last year. This year he had 53 in 67 games. So would have been 60 had he played the whole year.
Okay.
Yeah. It feels like you would have to do something bigger. Like, it would have to be, and if Larkin did want to come here, I think that would be a big target for them. And I'm sure they've looked into it, because that would make a lot more sense than a Trocheck. That would be preferable. They have the money to do it. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the player, once again, kind of forcing the situation, forcing where he's going to go. Besides the fact that it doesn't look like it can be Florida, he still has a lot of control, it seems, on where he ends up going. And so, yeah, I think it would have to be more of a Larkin caliber kind of guy. But and if it were Elias Pettersson, and you swing and you miss on that just feels like such a huge risk, because you already kind of swung and missed on Elias Lindholm, and then to go back out and do it again with a guy that it's kind of been documented that has had his issues, and it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly who was at fault when, but it hasn't been the smoothest time with him in Vancouver. So he doesn't feel like a safe option, though he does have the upside to do that for you. And you mentioned Austin Matthews as well, Brian. And to me, I'm just thinking to myself, like, if he forces his way out, like, it's just the fact that you want to know another thing that bothered me about the Brady Tkachuk thing too. This reminded me, the fact that Ottawa has to trade him in division. Like that is so crazy because you're trading your best player to a team that you're directly competing against for a playoff spot for the rest of his, contract there. And obviously, I feel like he'll re-sign. I just feel like he's probably there for a while. And now you have to go against him, and that's obviously not what you wanted to do. And it just shows you the power that players have in choosing, because that is really not the ideal situation to trade someone like that to your direct competition that's going to keep you from making the playoffs
Right.
potentially, or not even making the playoffs, but winning in the playoffs eventually if you have to go against them. So, and then, with Austin Matthews, it's like, well, where would he want to go? Like, it's just crazy to me. Like,
Florida, Tampa, Dallas, Vegas.
I know I was gonna say, like,
Yeah.
I swear to God, if it's Tampa and that it's also in the division and it's gosh.
I think he would probably go to like a competitive Western Conference team. Like I've always just kind of felt like if Matthews was to be traded, he'd want to go out west somewhere. I know he's from Arizona, so maybe that's a low hanging fruit for me to say that. But if I may, just quickly on Elias Pettersson, and I know that fans around the league, including Bruins fans, they write it off right away, which is interesting to me because again, we're talking about a Bruins team that just sometimes beggars can't be choosers. But Elias Pettersson, for all his issues and as much of a dumpster fire as Vancouver has been the last handful of years, part of me does wonder how much of his inconsistencies and off ice, maybe issues has to do with just a toxic situation in Vancouver in general. But he has 508 points in 545 career games, and that's with a couple of down years, as people call it. He's 27 years old. Like I don't really. I might be less afraid than some about his ability to perform on the ice. Like, I mean, we're not talking about a guy that's had like 5 years of just like half a point per game hockey. Like he had one really down year. I think last year he had like 51 points in 70 games or something like that. I think the talent's there. What I don't know is I don't know what the off ice issues are. Right? If it's a kid that just has no motivation, does not care, will not ever care, whether it's Vancouver, Boston, or Timbuktu, I don't know these things. But if it's just a matter of like, well, he and JT Miller never got along, and then it just kind of snowballed from there, and he just doesn't like this, I don't know, right? But the GMs do. So if it's something that's kind of like unsalvageable, then then no. But I don't know if that's the case. If it's something that's more just at surface level, like they just didn't work there after a certain point in time, and nobody was happy. Don't forget, Quinn Hughes wanted out. JT Miller wanted. How many people have right now? Jake DeBrusk wants out. Like Vancouver's a toxic place the last 5 years there.
Yeah, and like if part of it could be like, oh, once Vancouver went in the tank, like did Elias Pettersson kind of just not like totally give up, but stop putting in maximum effort? And it's like, yeah, that might have happened. Who else did that? Was Quinn Hughes at the start of this year. Like if you went back and watched some of those games Vancouver's playing early this season, like Quinn Hughes was like floating around.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like as a voter, it's part of the reason he didn't make my top 5 for Norris. Cause I'm like, yeah, he was great once he got to Minnesota, but he spent a third of the season in Vancouver and played like maybe his worst hockey as a pro. And I'm like, I can't, for the sake of like awards voting for a season award, like I can't just throw a third of the season out the window. And it's like, yeah, obviously you'd prefer guys never give up, give it 110% all the time, no matter what, even if the team around them stinks. Like, sure, that'd be great. They're also human beings, and like we just know that doesn't always happen. So maybe he would be a lot better in a different situation. Playing on the line with David Pastrnak. Like maybe that would get him going again. There is enough there that worries me. And like I said, unless it's a significant amount of salary retained, I don't think I'd do it depending on the cost, but it is worth considering and it is worth considering. And you're right that like, it shouldn't just be totally dismissed. And I'm not like 100% opposed no matter what. I'm just like, it would have to be a pretty sweet deal for me to really be on board.
I feel like the theme of this episode is like who's giving up on who. Like it's just like giving up. Like Brady Tkachuk gives up on Ottawa. Like is Austin Matthews gonna give up on Toronto? Elias Pettersson, did he give up on Vancouver?
Zach
And
Werenski. Does Werenski want out of Columbus? Like,
Yeah.
Dylan Larkin giving up on Detroit. Like it's just
yeah,
it just
certainly
feels
seems like Hellebuck is giving up on Winnipeg. I think that's going to happen.
That's
I think
another
he
one.
moves this offseason.
That's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw something else. It looks like, and again, this is a smaller, conversation, but Seattle appears to be, really trying to shop, Shane Wright. It's like, okay. I mean, again, I don't know what he's not incredibly accomplished at this point in his career, but I'm just saying, like, that's a young player, former top 10 pick, right? Projected number 1 overall.
Top,
at one
yeah,
point.
top 5. Yeah, and projected number 1. That I was going to mention him too. Like that's another. Again, all depending on the cost. Just same with all of this. That's a player I would take a chance on. If he's somewhat affordable to get, like still 22, I'd take a shot at Shane Wright and see what happens. I think that Seattle team, that organization has just been so stifling when it comes to any and all offensive players that part of me is like, I kind of think anyone is going to produce more getting out of there. Like I would feel the same way about Matty Beniers, who doesn't seem like he's available, but I know his name's popped up in the past. But yeah, I would definitely take a shot at Shane Wright if it's reasonable. If you're telling me I have to give up, if they're asking for like James Hagen's for him, it's like okay, kick rocks. But
right,
if I'm not giving up a lot, like yeah, I'll take it. Those are the kind of players that you're gonna have to hit on some of them, and the Bruins have taken those kind of chances before. Like that's how they got Pavel Zacha in the first place. And now we're talking about, do you want to commit to him long-term into his 30s or do you flip him for, a first-round pick plus? Like there's obvious value there. So that has been a very successful reclamation project.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Elias Pettersson. Like we talked about it earlier with the salary cap just continuing to rise, especially if there was some retention. I'm less concerned, honestly, about the money there. I'm more concerned about what are you giving up to get him. But in any event, I think maybe that's enough BSing before we get into this exercise officially. So
did we say about Bergeron? Did we mention?
Oh yeah, I mean, yes. You haven't had a chance to really give your thoughts because last episode we briefly touched on it. But was there any updates after that episode, Scott? I don't about no.
No, but we should know. So we're recording Monday morning. Monday at 2:00, it will be announced that Patrice Bergeron is a Hockey Hall of Famer. They're announcing the 2026 class. Bergeron is obviously a lock in his first year of eligibility. He'll be the headliner of this class. It's not as loaded of a class as last year's. I would expect Carey Price gets in as well. He's in his second year. It was a bit surprising he didn't get in his first year last year. Beyond that, it'll be interesting. There's a bunch of kind of maybes. Guys like Ryan Getzlaf and like Keith Tkachuk still on the ballot all these many years later. We'll see if the Tkachuk family just has a whole week of partying now that they get the brothers united. Does Keith now get into the Hall of Fame? But regardless, Bergeron very much the headliner of this class.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, and then the fact that he's speaking tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning. So I think Scott and I are both going to be there to talk to him at Warrior and just hear from him. And the other thing was Sophia just happened to bump into Marco Sturm. She was advertising the sidewalk sale that the Bruins were having, like discounted everything. Honestly, seemed like some good deals. I didn't make it over there, but and she bumped into Marco Sturm there, and she asked him about Bergeron. I think it was the same day that Bergeron, it was put out there that he was going to have his number retired with the Bruins. And Sturm said, well, good for him, but I thought maybe he still had a little bit left in the tank. And that he was like, well, we need a 1C. And I thought he's still in good enough shape that he could have come back. So I think that's what this means is I think we're going to have to stop saying, oh, maybe Bergeron will throw the jersey back on for one more year. I don't think are you allowed to do that if your name's in the in the rafters or your number's in the rafters? Rewind it, take it back down. I gotta play one more year, and then you can put it back up. But yeah, I don't think that. I think that officially marks the end of the talk of hey, maybe Bergeron's gonna come back.
I mean, it is worth reflecting on that. Like, he was still so good when he retired. Like,
yeah.
That's how you do it.
One of the top centers in the game his final season. And, like you don't see that a lot, right? Like, obviously age-wise, he was up there in his late 30s, but he was still playing at such a high level. And it's like, even other legends, like, you look around, it's like, Andrei Kopitar was still good this year, but there was clearly a drop-off from where he was even a few years ago, never mind his prime. Jonathan Toews, all the credit in the world to him just coming back and playing in the first place, but clearly like never got anywhere close to what he used to be. So, you see more of that where it's like guys hang on until it's like even Chara, right? Like Chara by the end was not anything close to the Chara we always knew and loved. So you see a lot more of that where guys hang on until it's like, oh yeah, they actually have fallen off a lot. And Bergeron, it was like, has he fallen off at all? Like this he's still just dominating the Selke every year. Like he still, putting up his 60 plus points, like was still at such a high level.
And if he had stayed on to continue to play until the wheels did start falling off a little bit, like we wouldn't be having the last 3 years, this conversation of, whoa, where was the next, who is next in line to be the 1C? Because Bergeron still probably would have been.
Oh, I'd still be having it. I'd still be saying who's coming up, who's next.
But we wouldn't be like, oh, it's so, they got to be desperate and go after who. Like,
yeah,
Bergeron would have probably sufficed for another few years if he wanted to play. But now he is, I guess we can say, officially unavailable for that role now that he's going to have his number retired.
Yeah, it's definitely good to go out on top. You don't want to be remembered as somebody who held on too long. I think Patrick Kane is a guy, different position, different play style, but his plays dropped off a little bit, but he's still been producing pretty late in his career. Brad Marchand, when healthy, he's been, he's not the 100-point guy he used to be, but still, I wouldn't say, oh man, got to hang him up at this point. So a couple of guys that are still out there that are doing well, but Bergeron, the position he played and the way he played it, very, very impressive, especially because, he was dealing with a lot of, he was dealing with back injuries and stuff like that towards the end. So, okay, I want to start this exercise off, if you guys don't mind, with the draft. Okay, and I'm not saying we necessarily pick who they're gonna select. We don't have to do that, get that granular. But how should the Bruins, or how do we, as the Bruins in this scenario, how do we approach the draft? Are we satisfied with 23 overall? Are we trying to move up? Are we trying to package? Whatever we trying to do? Because I look at the first trade from yesterday with Mackie Samoskevich going from Florida to Seattle for Seattle's 25th overall pick in the draft, and then a conditional second rounder. So if Mackie Samoskevich could fetch a first round pick in the draft this week, are there any players in the Bruins? And I know the one that first comes to mind, right, in terms of max value would be like a Pavel Zacha. But I'm also going to throw out a Mason Lohrei name or Casey Mittelstadt. I don't think Casey Mittelstadt alone gets you that. But my point is, I understand people wanting to hold on to all these players. In Pavel Zacha's case, I know he's one of the Bruins' top forwards and now he's on a great contract. He's still in the term for another year. I get all that. What I would say about Zacha is if the Bruins don't extend him or trade him, then they're absolute buffoons to let him play out this current season and potentially walk when the Bruins aren't a contender right now. So if they want to extend him, that's one thing. But if you don't extend him, you're really going to consider trading him. I'm not saying you do it at the draft, but I just bring up the scenario of like what could certain players maybe fetch the Bruins, or are we good with them picking at 23 and that's that?
Yeah, I think Zacha definitely gets you a first rounder, and if he doesn't, then you're not trading him, so you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, I would listen on Casey Middlestad. You're right. Middlestad alone is not getting you a first. I don't think Mason Lohrei is either, but I could see getting a second for either one of them. Like, I think that could be in play. And, you look at like what the Bruins have pick wise. They have 7 picks in the first 5 rounds, including 3 in the 4th. So 1 each in the first, second, and third, but then 3 in the 4th. That already screams like trade up at some point. Not necessarily in the first round, but do you package, a third in a 4th to try to get a second pick in the second round, or multiple 4ths to move up in the 3rd or something? Like, I think you'll see some movement somewhere early in day 2 of the draft. I don't think all those 4th round picks help you move up in the first round. So most likely, I think you stick at 23 and make the pick, but I could see a trade or two that gets you, another top 60 pick in the second round, or another top 100, top 95, top 100 pick in the 3rd round. That I could definitely see. And the Zacha thing, it just comes back to like what we've been talking about, which is just, it's like, yeah, if the right deal's there and someone blows you away, like, sure, go ahead and do it. But otherwise, it's not a move you have to make right now. Like, as you said, yes, at some point you have to decide extension or move on. Don't lose him for nothing. But that conversation can continue into the season. Like, Pavel Zacha's value is still going to, unless God forbid he suffers like a catastrophic injury, like his value is going to be there. There's always going to be someone looking for him, willing to give something up.
Yeah. And then I guess my mind comes back around to like, oh, are you going to be in the position to buy or sell at the deadline? And then that kind of probably makes your decision easier, I guess, on what to do with him during the middle of the season. So, yeah. So, Brian, your question essentially boils down to, are we moving anybody off the current roster before we start adding? Is that kind of where we're?
Yeah, I'm basically trying to go in order here of what we have for events. So we have the draft this week. So it sounds like maybe we're keeping Zacha at least through the draft, right?
Yeah. I'd say
So a couple of players that come to my mind that we could probably try to move on draft day is, and Scott, you kind of mentioned this, and I had done something similar in a recent exercise that I did, was trading Casey Middlestad. Now, to whom we trade him to, we can choose an arbitrary team. In my exercise that I previously did, it was Seattle for a second rounder. I think it was like 54th overall. That pick may have been included in was that part of the trade that just happened with Semiskevich? I don't know, whatever.
No, I think it's just the first.
So a thought
rather the second of their 2 firsts.
A thought that I had, and we don't have to go in this direction, okay? But I was trying to think of like a reclamation type project, or young player for young players type of deal. And Kent Johnson for Columbus came to my mind. Now, they don't have a second round draft pick in 27 or 28. So my thought was to try to trade Middlestad for a second and then try to flip that second to Columbus. It would have to be a 27 or 28 second, so not a 26 second. So flip Middlestad for a 27 second, call it, and then flip that 27 second to Columbus with a Lohrei and maybe even a Patra, or maybe somebody besides Patra, maybe like a Lachemel or something like that for Kent Johnson. Now, we don't have to do this, but it's a thought that I had, because I think in that situation, Kent Johnson, who Columbus may have no interest in trading him, but I think if we're talking about potential, he has the best potential among any of those players involved. So from Boston's perspective, we can't give up both Lohrei and Patra. It's an overpayment. Well, you're not going to get a player with the ceiling of a Kent Johnson for Lohrei straight up. I just don't see that. So moving Middlestad at this draft for a second at least gives the Bruins the option to use that second in another deal. I gave you guys that scenario as an example, just to kind of get your brains, thinking about that type of stuff. But I'll let you guys react to something like that.
I like it. I think that makes a lot of sense. Again, Kent Johnson, like another one of those players in like that kind of perfect sweet spot of like, all right, let me target that. Value has dipped a bit, but he's young enough. There's still upside there. I think he's very much available. He clearly didn't seem to click with Rick Bowness, and Columbus has obviously signed Bowness to an extension. So you would think, that he's probably available. There's been a lot of smoke around that. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, especially if you're getting him for, not giving up a first round pick or one of your true like top prospects. Like I'd sign me up.
Are those guys not your true top prospects anymore? Like, are you talking about just Hagens and Letourneau at that point? Like, who are you qualifying there?
Yeah, I think Hagens, Letourneau, Zellers. I'd say those are the top prospects.
I do think that both Laura and Patra are available. So I think that, they would be willing to give up those assets. Yeah, Brian, good idea. Never thought of that. So sometimes, I don't know how much time Brian just sits in his room and he's just like, man, I gotta come up with.
Well, I did a mock off-season exercise, but it was supposed to be I did it for recently, and it was supposed to be like a realistic off-season that the Bruins could conceptually try to do. So this is a few weeks back, and I did a little bit of research, and I noticed that Columbus was void of a second rounder in 27 and 28. So I look at Middlestat as somebody who they don't have a first round value on their own, but I do think that you could absolutely get a second rounder for Middlestat, and I happen to get it from Seattle. I guess like whomever, right? But I just look at Middlestat as a guy that is not part of Boston's long-term future. I don't see it. I think you might as well try to move on from him now. If he's still on the team next year, I think he could be a valuable player for them in a similar way he was last year. But I don't think that it's really making or breaking the Bruins' fortunes short or long term. So, in this situation, if we're trying to trade Middlestat for a second, then because I think right now we have just over 14 million in cap space, right? So his cap hit of 5 and change goes out the door, right? I'm not retaining anything on him. So I guess we'll start off if we want to document it. Like, let's just say we're trading Middlestat for a second round pick. We can choose a team specifically, or
and like I could even see Columbus being interested in Middlestat too. Like that could even all just be one trade, because I don't think Columbus. Now, listen, if Werenski requests a trade and that becomes a pressing issue, like maybe it changes. But I think they're a team that's trying to go for it. Like they were close. They were in a playoff spot for a long time last season, and it was a massive disappointment that they missed. I think that's a team that like wants to be in the playoffs and wants to take a step forward, especially if they're hanging on to Werenski, because like they want to give him a reason to want to be there. So I could see them being interested in like guys who can help now, and Laura and Patra, maybe they view them that way too. But maybe even more than draft picks.
Well, so that's a good point, because now effectively what I am saying, I suppose, and when you put it like this, maybe it does sound like a lot. Effectively, what we're doing is we're trading Middlestat, Patra, and Lohrei for Kent Johnson. Now, is that so? Like, work me through this. What would this deal actually look like, do you think? And we can, if we don't have the details on this show live, we can put out we can workshop it and put out like an actual offseason list on Twitter that we do. But
yeah, it's probably not all three of them, but
right.
Yeah, maybe 2 of them and a pick, or a closer to NHL level prospect. Like you're probably in the right ballpark with like Lush Mellis, who might not be far off. But yeah, I could see something like that.
All right. So, you're sending out $8 million between Lohrei's 3.2 and Middlestat's 5.2 or whatever. So it's like $8.5 million. And then you're bringing back Johnson's, I think his cap hits like 1.8 or something like that. So long story short, you're bringing in Johnson, you get rid of Laura and Middlestat here. And you're clearing, you're making more cap space for yourself at the end of this deal. All right, well that's one thing we can do.
And do you also want to try to move out Korpisalo's contract, or?
Yeah, so I mean, if we can, I mean, I have some names I just jotted down of what I think are movable contracts. Like we can say Elias Lindholm to a blue in the face. I just don't think that's happening this offseason. If it does, I'll throw a parade. But I wrote down Mason Lohrei's name because it seems like the writing could be on the wall there. I would be very surprised if he's back in Boston. And that's not me saying I don't like the player. I just don't know if that's going to happen. So I wrote down Lohrei's name, Korpisalo's name, Middlestad's name, Yoki Haru, Patra with a question mark, and Zaka with a question mark. Not that I don't think they're movable contracts. I just don't know if that's in the Bruins' best interest right now. So
I would add Corrali. There's
Okay.
been reports that they're.
How about AC Montreal?
I don't know if they're actively shopping Corrali or just listening, but I think they would move him. AC Mont for sure.
Corrali, AC Mont, definitely. Yep. Okay, so Bridget, to your question, let's stick with Korpisalo. I think Edmonton. I think I mentioned this to you guys in a recent episode. I think Edmonton, you could make the case that they could be interested in the Korpisalo. I'm not saying that they would be, but you can make the argument that they would be. I think Florida. We talked about it with Bobrovsky. I don't know if that was before we started recording or afterwards, but Scott, you mentioned Florida's without goaltending right now, and it doesn't sound like Bobrovsky is staying in Florida. If not, maybe even for a backup. Now, Florida has not a lot of cap space anymore, right? But maybe they could be interested in a goaltender in some capacity. I don't know.
Yeah, they're probably, well, unless they move like big salary, though, they're probably bargain bin shopping at goalie and just piecing it together. So I would think probably not looking at Korpisalo, even $3 million.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I'll take. If someone wants to give me a 6th, 7th round pick for Korpisalo, like I'll do it, and I'll even retain a little bit of money, ideally less than $1 million. But if you have to retain $500,000 on Korpisalo's contract to move that, then I would do it.
Okay, what about the option of putting him on waivers, if need be?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't move him, then as I've said, like then. Just make sure you have a legit goalie battle in training camp and preseason. Like, give DiPietro a real shot to win the backup job. At least put him on even footing and see who's better. And if Korpisalo loses that battle, then yeah, he's getting waived.
Okay, so are we all in agreement here that if the Bruins can move Korpisalo this offseason, that we do it? Like I'm with you, Scott. I think I had a 7th rounder in my mind. If it's a 6th, fine. But I kind of thought about it like a 7th, but no to very little retention from Boston's perspective. And if it has to be a 7th rounder in like 3 years to like whatever. Bridget, would you be okay to moving him, or you actually might be more along the lines of keeping him?
I'm okay with moving him. I just don't think it's gonna happen. I can't shake the feeling that it's not happening. Just because of what we've talked about before, it just seems like Sweeney is much more comfortable, and maybe that's Sturm's philosophy too, but like maybe that generation of guys is like, no, we really need this NHL experienced backup, with us. Maybe it's goalie Bob that's like, no, I'm not ready to throw DiPietro in there. Like, I don't know. Something tells me that he's not going. It doesn't necessarily mean that's what we have to do.
Right.
So we can decide. It depends if we want to go like the more realistic way, or like, do we just get to have what we want? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do we get to try to pull it off? I guess it would be the question.
Well, I'll say this: like, if he's not going anywhere and they don't intend on moving him, like then in that situation, then you might as well try to flip DiPietro for something. You can't not get something from one of these guys. Now, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want DiPietro. But like if they're hell bent on Korpisalo, well then find some value for DiPietro. But that being said, Bridget, like I feel like, listen, I don't think Korpisalo has the worst cap hit in the world, especially for a goaltender who had like an .894 save percentage the last couple of years on some teams that give up a lot of chances against. Like I just, man, like, there's got to be somebody among the 31 that could use some goaltending help right now. And I don't know, like I'm inclined to think that they could move him. I'm not saying it wouldn't be full $3 million going out the door. Maybe there's some retention, but I have to imagine that somebody could take on Korpisalo. Like he's not a bad goalie, and we all know goaltending. And the reason why the Bruins, I think, could afford to move on from him is because you do have the AHL goalie of the year that at least you can try to give an opportunity to, like, and if not, you can find backup goaltending. Like it's not like trying to find a number one center.
Yeah.
So I would like to try to move him if we can for this exercise. If you want to call it, someone's when the Bruins are retaining 20 or 30% of his contract, go for it. But I say we move him for like a 7th rounder, just for the sake of this conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So now Middlestat's gone, Lorai's gone, Korpisalo's gone. Do you guys have anything in mind regarding Yoki Haru, Patra, Corrali, Asimont? Like, what do you guys want to do there?
My gut tells me Asimont is on the move. I think the Bruins find something, just get back what they can. I think it wasn't hard to see that he wasn't very happy down the stretch, not playing. So I think that they'll try to do right by him and find him a new home. Corrali, I think they listen on, but ultimately I think he ends up back. Yoki Haru, I keep going back and forth on. Like my gut tells me he's back, and whether he's in the opening night lineup or not, I don't really know. Like maybe he's the 7th D. But my thinking with that is like, well, Andrew Peake's gone. But then you keep hearing that they're talking to Peake's agent and they want to bring him back. And I do think it's got to be one or the other. So if Peake's back, then I think Yoki Haru's gone and you get whatever you can get in return. But in my mind, like when I was going through, I kind of just quickly went through this myself on Sunday, playing the GM game, and I had Peake gone, let him walk in free agency, and ultimately Yoki Haru ended up back, even though I would certainly be exploring moving him, but I just have a hunch that he's back.
Yeah, I feel that way too, and that despite the fact that Sturm has talked much more highly of Andrew Peake than he has Yoki Haru, and he's also given Peake more opportunities than he's given Yoki Haru. So I think that it's pretty obvious which one he likes better, but the contract situation is what it is. Well, we have established that it seems like we have a decent amount of cap space, so can keep Peake if you want. I think.
I don't like. I don't. I mean, if it's okay, so like if we look at like contract projections, and like AFP Analytics and Evolving Hockey, both do these. So Andrew Peake, Evolving Hockey has him at 4 years, 4.8 million AAV. AFP Analytics has him 4 years, 4.1 million AAV. So like split the difference and say it's going to be 4 years, 4.4, 4.5. Like, I just don't want to do that. Honestly, like even if I trade away Yoki Haru, like Andrew Peake personally, he certainly has had some good moments, but like to me, that's just not where you should be investing money and years on your roster. Like, I know the Bruins they haven't developed defensemen recently, so that's part of the problem. But it's like you should have guys ready who can fill that kind of role, or you should be able to go find someone cheaper who can do it. So even if you trade Yoki Haru, like I don't want to give Andrew Peake that contract. If he wants to take a discount to stay, like okay, we can talk. But I'm not going 4 years, 4.5 million.
Yeah, 4 years is longer than probably than what you want to do. I'd say 2 years would probably be the max of what you want to do, but I don't know what he's looking for. Don't know what he wants to do. What other teams value him at would be interesting as well. But so want to make a final decision on those two guys. Yeah, Brian, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think that so right now they had $15.4 million in cap space going into this exercise, right? Now, you also have a whole, you have a bunch of signings to do, with Providence too, and not all these deals are completely flushed out to the detail. But so it seems like we have Lohrei going out. We have who's on a $3.2 million cap hit. We have Middlestad going out $5.75 million. Corposalo going out at $3 million, or if the Bruins retain some, call it $2.5. And then AC Mont $1.45 million, and you're bringing in Kent Johnson's $1.8 million. Now, the actual trade for Johnson, is there a Losh Mellis in there? Is there? I don't know, but the ballpark. If you don't retain on Corposalo, you're talking about $27 million in cap space right now. If you do retain $500,000, call it 26.5. So you've gained, over $10 million in cap space either way with these moves. And, I guess now we can kind of talk about, all right, so now we're kind of going into free agency here, right? Like, okay, so we have this much money to work with. Now, would all these trades happen before free agency? That means that they'd all have to happen this week, right? So, but again, we can only control so much in this exercise. So,
well, one thing that I think we might all agree on, and we can just do now, and it's going to affect the rest of the cap, is bring back Viktor Arvidsson.
Well, I think there's a conversation to be had there, because I'm fine doing it on a shorter term deal, and I value your input here, but would you guys rather Arvidsson or Marchment? All things considered, Marchment's probably getting more term, more AAV, but he's younger, different style of guy. But you don't know if he works.
I was happy with Arvidsson.
Yeah, I think Arvidsson gives you more offensively, and that he works here.
Okay.
So I'll go Arvidsson in that.
What's the what if you pull up those projections again, Scott?
I think he was 2 years, $4.9 million, something like that.
Yeah, AFP has him 2 years, 4.8, and Evolving Hockey has him 3 years, 4.5. Which I gotta say, like, both of those are lower than I would have thought. Like,
me too.
Honestly, going into the offseason, I felt like 3 years, $5 million a year was like the minimum. And I could see, like, I could see Arvidsson coming in at like, I want 4 at like 5.5 or 6. And, maybe the Bruins start at 2 and they end up at 3. But the AAV, in my mind, I always had that somewhere more like 5.5 or 6. If it comes in around 5 or even slightly less than that, like, I think that's good value.
Yeah. What about the time?
I still suspect it might cost a little bit more than that, but even like 3 years, even if it comes to like 5.3 million AAV, like, I'm good with that.
Okay, so that's bringing him to what, 35 years old though, and he's got some injury history in the past. So like, he worked last year, and that's great, but like, we also got to kind of think about what's he going forward.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about a 3-year commitment though.
Okay. All right. Well, majority rules here. So what do you want to call it? 3 times 4.8, 4.7?
Call it 5 even.
3 times 5. All right. Let it be known on
the 4.8 feels low to me. Like, I'll be impressed if it comes in at that, but
I tend to agree, but at the same time, you never know. Let us just be known on this episode of Behind the B that this manager over here is sweating over this conversation, but I am a team player, so I'll go with you guys here. So
I just think, like, you gotta have something up front. We've already traded away Middlestad. Bobby McMahon just re-signed in Seattle. Mason Marchment, you mentioned, but it's like there's not a whole lot like in that neighborhood. Like Michael Bunning, like, I would rather have Arvidsson than him. Jaden Schwartz, like, he's even older than Arvidsson. And like I know we want to go big fish hunting and land something better than that, but I do think, like, you need, like, you got to try to fill out a lineup. And I like what Arvidsson brought. I like what he brings to the room. I like that Sturm likes him. Like, I think it makes a lot of sense.
So can I make an argument as to why I kind of liked Marshman in this situation? And also remember we're bringing in Johnson, right? Which is, hopefully a big plus for the team going forward. But I kind of thought about a situation where you have a line where you have Higgins as like your second line center, and then on the left side of him is Marshman, and right side TBD. But like I kind of like the idea of a Marshman who can play in your top six, bigger body. Not that is all that matters, but I do think that having a guy like that could be beneficial for a kid like Higgins, being his center iceman, because he can kind of do for Higgins what like a Jeannot and a Kastelic did for Minton in the bottom six, but in a top six capacity because he has more skill than those guys I just mentioned. So that would be what. Whereas like I look at Arvidsson and like he's a water bug, love him, appreciate what he does, but if I'm trying to find somebody to complement Higgins, I don't think that's necessarily Arvidsson. I'm not saying that they can't work well together, but that's where my mind went with Mason Marshman. That you don't have to agree with it. We don't have to act on it, but that's kind of where my mind went with him, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I mean, I think Arvidsson plays like the exact way of like what the Bruins need more of, which is like getting inside, going to the net, finishing in tight. Not that like Marchman can't do that, but you already know that Arvidsson can do it in this system. I think he has some creativity. Like, yeah, obviously they're different players, but I guess like I'll take the player I know and that I know fits here rather than, maybe Marchman would come in and put up, give you 55 points, but maybe he just tops out as like a 40 to 45 point guy.
So based on what we currently have and what we're talking about potentially having, my lines here would be, I would put Johnson on the left with Zacha and Pastrnak because I want David Pastrnak to get back into a shot first mentality. And I think, that could get the best out of Johnson. Johnson's a playmaker. And then the second line, you'd have Marshman on the left with Higgins, and then Geekie on the right because you give Higgins a shooter and Geekie. You give Geekie a setup man and Higgins, and you give them both that power forward protection and, element in a Marshman. And then you'd have a third line of like Minton, Husadinov, and Lindholm in a situation. But, again, like I'll go with you guys in this. It's just that was my concept there. So, I think, Bridget, do you have any thoughts on all of that?
Johnson's playing on our first line.
It's just a concept, like theoretically, like what if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm just saying like the thought process there. And again, the Bruins offensive lineup right now is not exactly the Globetrotters. So it's, but the thought process there is, I just feel like you got to split up Pastrnak and Geekie. I think that you can give Geekie a playmaker in Higgins, right? Theoretically. And I think you want David Pastrnak. 100 points is 100 points no matter how you get there. I understand that. But he himself even said after the season, he feels like he wants to get back into being a shot first player. And I feel like, maybe Kent Johnson doesn't work, but like Kent Johnson was drafted 5th overall to be a top 6 playmaker, and he has all the offensive skill in the world. You put him with David Pastrnak, and he's got eyes in the back of his head. I just feel like conceptually something like that could work. Maybe Johnson's on a second line or third. Like, I don't know. But these are just thoughts that I'm having, right?
Yeah. Well, my main issue so far is that, and I assume we're going to kind of finish off with this, but like we haven't added a real difference maker here. And also just to look at our D pairs, correct me if I'm wrong, it'd be like Aspro, McAvoy, Lindholm, Harris, like Lindholm, Zadorov, Jokiharju.
So we'll get to the defense for sure. I mean, I'm bringing up Frederic Brunet for sure. Like that's somebody I'm looking at. And with the defense as currently constituted, I think I would probably want Aspro and Frederic Brunet together on a third pair. I know Aspro is my boy, and we know he can play with Charlie if he needs to. But I would have one of him or Brunet possibly play their offside, And then you have, I would give, before doing any moves, based off who's in the organization right now, I'd probably try Lindholm with McAvoy, who's out for the first 6 games of the year, 7, whatever it is. And then maybe Zadorov and I don't know, I guess Yoki Haru. And then I don't know. But like, we obviously want to try to, no,
Well,
but we want to add somebody, right? That's before we add anybody.
Yeah.
I don't like it either, but that's the reality of their decor right now.
Yeah, the what I want to do in defense, and maybe this is like our last swing, but I want to trade for Olin Zellweger. And like I think through what we've done in this exercise, I think you still have the assets to do it. But young defenseman, late in the season fell a little bit out of favor in Anaheim. His name has been out there. I think he brings the puck move in the transition game that you'd want. Bruins' new assistant coach, Matt McIlvaine, coached him in the AHL. Obviously you're going to get his opinion. If he tells you like, oh no, stay away from Zellweger, here's all the things I don't like about him. Like, okay, fine. Then don't go get him. But I think McIlvaine would say good things about him. I think he really liked him. So that's one that interests me. Like when I went through this on my own on Sunday, my big swing was I pulled off, double trade for McTavish and Zellweger. In this case, I think we've basically just substituted Kent Johnson for McTavish as the young forward target, which I'm okay with. Honestly, I think Kent Johnson probably has higher upside. He's not a center, but I think you're going to get more production there if I had to project forward. So I'm good with that. And now I know it's going to cost at least 1 first-round pick, but that's okay. Like I'm okay with doing that to get Zellweger.
So he's obviously a left shot, right? So in that scenario, we're not addressing the right side. And for the record, I like Zellweger. Like I would do that as well. And I know that the Bruins could use help on the left too, but their left side's a bit more stable than the right as we currently speak. So now your left side, let's just call it Zellweger, McAvoy, right? And then Lindholm, who? Zadorov, who?
Probably Aspero flipping to the other side. Yeah, I had it in my head. I kind of want to, we'll talk about this some more, but I kind of want to start the season with Hampus Lindholm and Charlie McAvoy together and see what that looks like and try to actually give Charlie McAvoy like a legit, at least close to first pairing guy with him. I thought in spurts and smaller sample size last year, I thought that was a good pairing when they were together. So, and then you could go like Zadorov, Aspero, and Zellweger, whoever on your third pair. Maybe it's Brunet flipping over or Yoki Haru wins that job or whatever.
Yeah. All right. So before we execute that trade, I want to bring this up to you guys because Bridget mentioned high impact, right? Now, off the top, I said what the Bruins shouldn't do in terms of reacting to what's going on around the league, and that is, bring in Trouba, bring in Trocheck to try to, answer to, what Florida has, which is probably the best top 9 the NHL has seen now in however long. I do think we have to have the conversation about Jason Robertson, and Dallas is up against the cap. I think Jason Robertson, he's not a center iceman, but he is a elite scoring winger at 26 years old in this league. And I think there's a couple of different ways we can go about this. I think we can hop on the phone with Jim Nill now, right? And say, hey, listen, Jimmy, what's going on with you and Jason? Because I don't want to have to do this, but I will offer sheet if I need to. If you guys don't have an offer out there by July 1, I want to talk to you now and get ahead of it because I would like to do a deal with you if we can. And if we can't, and you haven't signed him by July 1, I'm telling you now, I will be offer sheeting him. So, what could that potential trade look like? We know what the offer sheet looks like. Based off what he's going to get paid, it's going to be 4 first-round picks of Boston's own picks over 5 years starting in 27. Even then, I am okay with that because I believe, you could give them a first-round pick starting in 2028 of your own. So you're talking 28, 29, 30, 31. 30 and 31, I've said this before, your top players are grandparents by then. I'm all set. That player's not going to be in the league for another 10 years if they even hit, or at least, probably 7, 8 years, truly. But you still have Letourneau, Zellers, Hagens, Minton, Cooper Simpson. You have your own first round pick in 26 still. You have the Florida pick and the Toronto pick in, first rounds in the next couple of drafts too. I know that they might be lower, but you still have those. So you're mortgaging your distant first round future capital, but you still have a lot to work with in the coming years, including your current prospects. So you have to give to get to bring in a winger like that. And since we talked about center icemen aren't really out there, you're hoping that your current youth can be those centers in the future, and you're building around elite wingers. And now you have two of the elite scoring wingers in the National Hockey League. Not every team can say that. Or we strike a deal with Jim Nill before it gets to that point, and in which case, what are we willing to give? Now, you guys might be out on Jason Robertson, but I think he's one of the only true impact players that could be realistic for the Bruins because of the situation Dallas is in. So we can talk about Connor McDavid all we want. It's not happening. Jason Robertson, if it's not Boston, it's going to be somewhere else, I think. And I don't know why the Bruins shouldn't be in on that. They do have the draft capital, and the salary cap is going to be 123, 130 million over the incoming years. I'm less worried about that. So I want to have that conversation before we finish this exercise because I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Like, I think I might almost rather the offer sheet just because, like you said, it's like all future first rounders, and right. I'm just like, I don't know what those are, so I feel more inclined to give those up. Whereas, like, if we're doing a trade, Jim Nill price starts at James Higgins, and the Bruins say, no, we really don't want to give up Higgins. He's an RFA. Like, we can just wait an offer sheet. So, okay, now is it Dean Letourneau? All right. I'm more open to it. So Dean Letourneau plus, like, I assume there's still at least one first round pick, maybe two in there. But like now you're getting towards something that like I could consider. And the advantage there, if you get a trade done beforehand, is you locked him up. Like, you guaranteed yourself the player. Whereas if you wait for July 1st, wait to offer sheet, it's like, well, other teams might also offer sheet, and then Jason Robertson gets to pick which of those offer sheets he signs. And that then becomes the one that Dallas either has to accept or match, right? Like, it's not like you just get to like offer sheet Jason Robertson and he comes to your team if Dallas doesn't match. There's an important middle step where Jason Robertson himself has to sign it. So if you get the trade done ahead of time, you take off any potential competition from other teams.
What's his trade clause situation?
I mean, there is none because he's an RFA.
Okay. So not if you did a sign and trade though?
Yeah, you could. I mean, there's no, like, Jim Nill can work with him if he wants, but like Jason Robertson wouldn't. Jim Nill wouldn't do this without Robertson signing off on it, but like technically he doesn't have any trade protection.
Okay. So yeah, if it's Letourneau, I mean, I guess I like Letourneau, but if it's Letourneau plus 2 first, and you don't have to give up, and you can kind of choose which those are, by the way, because that gives you more flexibility to not necessarily use all of your own. Like, you have the Toronto, you have the Florida. Yeah, so I guess I'll put it this way. I think the three of us in agreement that we want him. Like, that's part of this is our big move.
I think that if the Bruins are serious about trying to maximize this current window of McAvoy and Pastrnak, I don't think a true 1C out there externally exists unless you take the risk on Elias Pettersson. I think this is the move that actually is presenting itself. The McTavishes, the Zellwegers, the Kent Johnsons of the world, those are great, moves to try to get younger talent, but this is like a big time move that I think is out there. Well, I think we know it's out there. Like, maybe Dallas extends them, but where there's smoke, there's fire, as Scott said. So for me, like, I look at Dean Letourneau and I say, Dean Letourneau is 12 to 18 months away from being on the Boston Bruins with McAvoy and Pastrnak, possibly. A first-round pick in 29 or 30? No. So, like, I would rather offer sheet. And it's like, it's not mortgaging your entire future because you still have all your top prospects and you still have how many first-round picks? 3 over the next 2 or 3 drafts. and some of them aren't yours, so you can't even get those up an offer sheet anyway. And also, if the Bruins did offer sheet for Jason Robertson and the salary threshold required 4 of Boston's own first-round picks over the next 5 years, if you can't go out there and at some point, somehow, some way recuperate some first-round picks, you're an asshole. You know what I mean? They might not be your own picks, but you can move somebody for a first rounder. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's not like, oh, they will never have a first-round pick again in the year 2030 because you can go out there and trade for one, like give up somebody for one. It can happen. So I'm with Scott in the sense, like, I'd rather do the offer sheet. The only reason why I would do a trade is to beat everybody else to the punch, because I don't think the Bruins would be the only team lining up for the offer sheet door. Ottawa Senators, they have a lot of cap space now, and they're in need of a big time winger. I read before we started recording this episode that Chris Johnson on his show, was he with TSN? Who's he with? Sportsnet? I don't know who he's with, but mentioned that doesn't think Jason Robertson will be interested in a long-term extension with Ottawa. So Ottawa can want him all they want, but to Scott's point earlier, it comes down to the player. So I think Jason Robertson would consider Boston. I do, but
okay, so that's our big move then. So either way, whether it's the offer.
I'll say this, like, this is, to me, like, this is where it becomes like, all right, are we doing what we really want in our dreams, or like what we think is realistic? Because, like, I really want Jason Robertson. I think there is an extremely slim chance that he's a Boston Bruin this summer.
But why? Do they have the draft picks and do they have the money to bring him in? If so, then why is it unrealistic? More than
they do. Just the sense I get is, like, I don't know if they're all in on him. Like, I don't know if this is the direction they're going. And 2, I don't know if it would be one of Jason Robertson's preferred destinations.
Well,
maybe I'll be surprised, but
yeah, but this is in part what we would do, right? Like, for all I know, Don Sweeney has a hard on for Vinny Trocheck and Jacob Trouba instead of Jason Robertson. Doesn't mean I agree with him. Like I don't care what Don Sweeney wants to do. This is what I think we think the Bruins should do here. Like, only so many teams around the league have the draft capital for an offer sheet compensation like this, and the Bruins are one of them. So I don't know. I mean,
yeah. Well, and the other thing I would add too is, like, if we are doing the Jason Robertson, then I think we take off Kent Johnson, Olin Zellweger. Like, if you're getting Jason Robertson, like, that is the one big move where you are giving up future assets. I don't think you're making other moves that really involve that.
Okay. Well, then before we sign out here, then let's come to a decision, because if it's one or the other, again, there's 3 of us on here. You guys tell me what you want to do. Just know if it's more along the lines of like the Kent Johnson, Olin Zellweger route, which I'm not against, right? It's just gonna be, that's fine. But it's not gonna be an overnight thing, and it's gonna require some patience from people. And to be fair, Jason Robertson wouldn't be an overnight thing too, because you still have to address the defense. So what are you guys more in favor of here? Because I can go either way. I'm just throwing out options.
Yeah, I'm good with whatever you guys want to do, whatever we want to make this exercise. If we're saying dream off season, let's get Jason Robertson. If we're saying what do we think a realistic Bruins off season could look like, then it's probably more the Kent Johnson, Olin Zellweger route.
Bridget, what do you think?
Well, I think there's one route that makes your team better than the other route. I think there's one route that involves a big move, what you need, and one that is, they are moves that are subtle upgrades potentially. I mean, I would say, like, maybe let's go for the big move. I don't know. That's.
I don't disagree. I think if we're gonna go Robertson, right? Because again, the reason I'm okay with Robertson is because you're not sacrificing any of your top prospects or even your immediate first round picks for him. Like, to me, like, if you want to really add an impact player to this roster, to help out this current core and the young core that's up and coming. That's how you do it. I'm not saying I wouldn't like the Zellweger McTavish or Zellweger Kent Johnson exercise or avenue either, because to you guys' point, like I think that's more realistic. But again, like there are teams in the NHL that literally cannot do an offer sheet for Jason Robertson because they don't have the draft capital to do so. Like the Bruins do.
Also,
And
we need to think about what the price would be too, because we are dealing with cap too. So like, what's the compensation?
My mind's been around like 12 to 13, call it 12 and a half. Like,
I think you gotta, I think you gotta offer 13 if you're gonna get to a point where Dallas doesn't match.
Or could somebody else give an offer at the same time? So, but like, okay, so if we offered him a $13 million contract, is that like a small NDA period, or like can other teams around the league find out what you offered to like one up you, or like do they have to like wait? How does that work?
I think anyone can offer once Robertson signs an offer sheet. Then I believe then that's it. Like he can't then sign like a second one if Dallas doesn't like once he signs one, it's like there are now two options. Either he's going to that team that he just signed the offer sheet with, or Dallas is matching it and now he has a new contract in Dallas. But until he signs one, as far as I know, anyone can just make an offer at any time.
But I guess my question is, Dallas if the Bruins came to Robertson and offered him a $13 million contract, Dallas, who owns his rights, would know that offer because they have to know the offer. But like, would the Ottawa Senators know what the Bruins offer was to like them to, okay, well, we're gonna do 14 now, or like would there be a level of non-disclosures?
That I don't. I mean, I would assume like Robertson's agent can be in communication with
fair enough
multiple teams, and if he wants to say like, hey, Bruins just came in with this and we're considering signing it, like here's your last chance to beat it. Like I think you could do that.
Okay, so I guess for the sake of this exercise, if you guys want to go with the Robertson route, what does that mean for some of the moves that we just worked on? Like, is Lohrei still going out to something? Is middle, like, because obviously we had to clear some cap space to do some of this, right? So, yeah.
I still think it's through the Johnson part of it. I don't know about the Zellweger part of it. Yay or nay? No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't.
Second round pick Lohrei and Middlestat for Johnson.
I mean, you had $15 million to work with, and then you're shipping out.
So here would be my pushback there, though. I mean, if you get Robertson, like to me, you're good on the wing.
Okay.
So maybe
I think like defense would have to be the next area you address.
Sure. Yeah.
We're just running it back with like the group you have.
Yeah. Well, so okay. So then, so maybe we scratch Johnson and like it. And I know we can't go too much longer here, but it's like, so is there a defense trade in mind we could do with Lohrei involved? Lohrei and a pick or two, whatever. I don't know. Prospect.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be Zellweger because I think you're just giving up too many. At that point, you're giving up too many future assets.
What about Nemitz? Is he available? Is there a trade there?
Same thing. I think. Okay. I just don't see the Bruins giving up like. I truly feel like if they did go for Robertson, it's like that's your one big move, and you're not now making another trade where you're giving up a first round pick and a top prospect. Like, I'd be shocked.
And
I think more likely like how you're addressing your defense is you're either running it back or maybe there's a free agent out there, not Rasmus Anderson because I don't want to do that, but like Ryan Shea would be a guy I'd have my eye on. Who I'm like, I think Ryan Shea can be a second pairing defenseman, or Mario Ferraro I've mentioned before. Like, I can see someone like that. If you decide like, hey, that's an upgrade over Andrew Peeke, and we'll let Peeke walk, and then, does Ryan Shea solve all our problems? Absolutely not. But does he help us in the interim until we can, go find a better defenseman? Yeah, I think so.
You're still trading Middlestat though, because you need this cap space, correct?
Yeah,
but you just get a pick.
Still do that.
So get for a second round pick or something. Because we need to find a way to pay for Arvidsson and Robertson, basically, would be.
Which I think you can with all the money we moved out.
All right, so I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I don't want to bully you guys into a Robertson thing. So like we're cool with this being our, we're going all in for Jason Robertson here, and then we'll find a suitable right shot defenseman maybe in free agency or, and then a couple other minor trades along the way. Like you're bringing in maybe we want Middlestad, we want Corpusalo, AC Mont, whatever. Laurai and some type of probably young for young swap type thing. Again, we don't have all the details right now because we're working this out live. But
yeah, because like if we go through the lineup, right? Like so, if we've done this, our forward lines now you can go Robertson, Zacha, Pasternak. Like that's a hell of a top line.
Mm-hmm.
You can maybe put Geeky there if Robertson's on your second line. Like whatever. Second line can be Geeky, Hagens, Arvidsson, or again, like maybe it's Robertson, Hagens, Arvidsson. Third line, Husnudinov, Minton, Elias Lindholm. Fourth line, Janot,
Corrali,
maybe Corral.
I go Patra if he's still around. If Patra's still around, throw Patra in there.
Around, I'm plugging him in, and Corral can be my 13th forward.
Yep.
And Alex Steves, maybe he's on the team, maybe he's not.
Okay, and then on the blue line, I know it's a little bit fuzzy, but I would like to bring up Frederic Brunet, and if that means that my boy Johnny Aspro or Yoki Haru is the 7th D man and there's a rotation, fine. I mean Jordan Harris, maybe they make a decision on him too. I don't know, but that's the other part of it too. I do want Frederic Brunet on this team. I want that. So I guess we can figure out maybe who that Ryan Shea. Ryan Shea and Brunet and McAvoy, Zadorov, Lindholm, Yoki Haru, combination of those guys, Aspro. And then Swayman DiPietro.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not this might not end up being a playoff team. Maybe it's a bubble team, maybe they surprise people, but at the end of the day, at least you should be taking steps forward because your youth should be getting better and better and better. And you do have some elite talent on this team. Is it the best blue line in the league? No. Is it the best forward core in the league? No. But guess what? Newsflash, the Bruins will not have that next year regardless because there's just a little too much to do right now in one off season. But I fear for all the strands of hair I'll pull out of my head if they bring in Trocheck and Trouba and come on. So let us know what you guys think. I know this is kind of all over the place. I feel like the Charlie Day thing from Always Sunny with the board, the chart. But we intentionally kind of came into this without much prep amongst the three of us. We wanted to be like a live exercise, working through it.
I think. I mean, listen. I like where we settled just because it gets us Jason Robertson. I wish I thought it was as realistic as we hope it is.
Well, if it's not, right, like if it doesn't end up happening, then you can still try to pivot because I liked our other plan too.
Yeah.
Like I thought I'm fine with that too. But
one thing just to put a bow on this, like if you can't get Jason Robertson, just like you couldn't get, I don't know if Darren Radish was going to be a priority for them, but like you didn't get him. You didn't get Brady Tkachuk. You don't get Dylan Larkin. If you can't get those real top guys, I think what's clear is we're all in agreement. Like the pivot should be look for some younger guys who maybe aren't getting the opportunity where they are. Take a chance on the youth and potential. The pivot should not be to Vinny Trocheck and Jacob Trouba and like, all right, well, let's just go spend our assets on the next best thing. It's like, no, let's instead like just go a different path altogether and like find those younger players with potential who have some upside. Like that's, I would be so much more a fan of that plan than, well, Trocheck and Trouba were the best we could do. They were the next guys up on our list, so that's what we did.
Well, we'll find out soon enough, Bridget and Scott, because there's a lot that's going to happen over the next 10 days. We got the draft later this week, and then you have free agency next Wednesday. So less than 2 weeks from now, we'll have an idea of what probably the Bruins roster will be next year, at least 95+% of it. So,
by the way, quickly before we sign off, an extension that just came down a few minutes ago that could potentially say something about what Andrew Peeke might get. Connor Murphy re-signed in Edmonton. 5 years, $4.1 million AAV. He's 33 years old. All the projections had him at like a 1 or 2 year deal for like around $4 million. And he got 5 years at a little over $4 million a year. Not a contract I'd be handing out, but
well,
boy, Edmonton is really dead set on
they're
doing
a joke.
things.
The Oilers
they
are
love
a
those
joke.
long-term contracts for like people that definitely I would not risk it on. But
No.
Let me say something with the Oilers real quick. They, I think, are some of the one of the worst ran teams in the NHL. They have fallen into how many elite talented players, and Connor McDavid, Draisaitl, how many years do they have first round picks in a row? 4 or 5? And people will act like, oh, because they went to 2 finals in a row, that like, well, obviously you're going to get to there at some point. We have those guys. They have lucked into those players. They've sucked into those players. They are terrible. They cannot manage an Applebee's. So I can't wait for the day that those players decide to leave and Edmonton is just palms up to the sky because they suck. They are. If any other team in the league lucked into those players, they'd have a Stanley Cup by now. They've never been able to figure out goaltending. Their blue line, it's like, and now I can't be talking on my high horse with the Bruins here. But then again, you and us three aren't the Bruins. But Edmonton, just what a joke, truly. But Babcock will fix it all. Anyway,
yeah.
Any final thoughts before we send out here?
No, I'm good. I think we've gone long enough.
All right. Bridget, you good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you all very much for listening. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.